sensations and feelings. Now, how do we understand the sensations of feelings? Now, let's say there are a lot of objects, even in this room. When you look outside, you see there are a lot of objects. When the light falls onto the objects, now what do we see? Do we see the object or do we see the light? I'm asking a question from you. Huh? Light. We just see the light, not the object. But to the majority of the people, they think they're seeing the objects. We don't see the objects. We see only the lights. And then we identify. We think, when we see the light through that, then we see the object, and then, we say, oh, this is a woman. This is a man. Oh, this is a Buddhist man. Oh, this is a cup. Oh, there's a camera. Oh, there's a flower. And then we just see in the light, and then we also identify them. The feelings comes from, that is like the colors. Along with these sensations and the feelings that come, now we say, oh, this is a yellow color. This is a red color. This is a red flower. Yellow flower. Oh, this is a black cup. Oh, this is the white glass. Right? So we identify them as this and that. And then what happens? Then they are, with this identification of the objects, and then we give them a name. We give them a name. So that's why we call, this is a flower, this is a statue, or that's a chair, or that's the table, or this is a man, this is a woman, and so on and so forth. So it's called the Nama Rupa. You have the object, and then you give a name with this. So then what happens? Now in the first, all these are happening quickly. From the state of the complete whole of the mind, then when you come back, then you with the feelings and sensations, then you mentally construct something. That is what we call the dependent on activities, arises the rebirth consciousness, and then there comes the sankhara. Sankhara is the activities are the mental constructions. Like you have previously seen something, and based on that, let's say even drawing a picture, what you're doing is you just put in the colors, right? And after putting the colors, you identify the object as, oh, this is such a thing.
So, may I ask a question? So,
Yeah.
for example, the first link here,
Yeah.
dependent on ignorance, like with the arising of ignorance, in the presence of ignorance, then arise activities.
Yeah.
This is, I'm reading it correctly, moral and immoral, or sankhara. And then it creates sankhara, this mental impression. Right?
Mhm.
So, how would you define ignorance in this context?
In this context, it's like, like this is what we see. The ignorance comes from, like, there are two things going on. Okay? This is about the existence. Now, according to the existential philosophers, they think, we exist, right? We exist. But then according to Buddha's teaching, he says, that's the wrong conception. We exist, it's a wrong conception. In reality, we don't exist. Now he says, we exist is because of the emotions. Emotions want us to see like this exists, that exists. Anger exists, jealousy exists, so such a thing exists. But the thinking part says, although emotions think this exists, but the thinking part says, no, it doesn't exist. So it is connected to that emotion part. Emotion part wants to think it's existing. And then you realize that when you purify the mind, this is why we need to practice meditation to purify the mind. And when you go to the mental purity, level of mental purity, you go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, then you understand there is nothing existing, and things are existing due to a particular cause and condition. So not knowing this is ignorance. Like, that's the emotion part. When emotion thinks that this exists, it is ignorance.
Could it also be defined as a misperception of reality, ignorance?
Yeah,
Misperception
you
of
could
reality.
say that too. Yeah. So then, that's why Buddhism highly talks about meditation. That's why people have to meditate. Now, it's like, if something is existing in your life, if you think you're upset, you're angry, you have to understand that anger, that upset is based on a particular cause and condition. Now, so who creates that is the emotion, that ignorant part. They think, so and so did this to me, so and so said this to me, and so I am upset about it, I'm angry about it. But the thinking part says, well, even the person who yelled at me doesn't really exist. And so when that's why we call, this is the major paradigm shift. This is a major paradigm shift. We have to shift our attention to the thinking brain, not the emotional brain. Emotional mind wants, oh, so and so exists, and he or she did this to me, and therefore I exist because I'm suffering from it. Right? That's why I'm upset. But then if your thinking brain or thinking mind says, that's a delusion that he or she exists, or she or did this, she did that, or I am upset, I'm angry, if I think I'm existing that way, and that is the real avidya, the ignorance. So now, we mentally construct all this. So we would even say, it's also like how this thing happens. I think maybe we can simplify this. Let's say I see you, right? In fact, I don't see you in reality. As we made it very clear, all we see is the light. The light is nothing else but the waves or the frequencies, right? So the frequencies of light, when fall onto a particular object, and then I say, I have constructed an image of you, like this is David, right? And then the moment I identify frequencies of light, when fall onto a particular object, and then I say, I have constructed an image of you, like this is David, right? And then the moment I identify you as David, with all the sensations and all the things, then what happens? Then the Vedana, when my eyes see you, when the light falls onto you as an object, right? And there's a contact between the eyes and the object. And then there comes like, this is the guy that yelled at me the other day. Right? Then what happens? That there's a feeling, unpleasant feeling in me, right? I'm very upset. I'm angry. And then all these, so this is the feelings with because that's what happens with us, even these 6 spheres of sense. Dependent on these 6 spheres of sense arises contact. So that is like, let's say we see the object through the eye, and we hear the sound through the ear, we smell something through the nose, we taste something the tongue, we get some sensations, feelings through the body, right? So that we create the whole world in it, right? So these 6 senses are the world, the Buddha said. Beyond this, there's nothing else. So then when there is such a thing, then maybe if you, even sometimes how we say to certain people, you know what, you're like David, you're so nice. David is also nice, right? You're kind, he's also nice. How we compare? Something like that. So then, all this is like pleasant. Pleasant feelings. And there are, when we talk about the feelings, there are pleasant feelings, unpleasant feelings, neutral feelings. And along with all this, there comes the tanha. Tanha, that is the craving, desire. To make it very simple for people to understand, craving, desire, nothing else but the emotional reaction to the environment. What you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're smelling, what you're tasting, what you're touching, right? And then with this emotional reaction, then that's the necessary condition for something else. What is that? It is grasping, clinging. Clinging, grasping is nothing else but the personalization. Now you're personalizing all the emotional reactions, like, I, me, myself. So then, with this personalization, with the grasping and clinging, there comes this thing called the upadana. Upadana, clinging. From the clinging comes the bhava. Bhava means the existence. Now the notion of self comes into being.
In the sense of, dependent on feeling arises craving. So I experience something pleasant, I crave, I want to experience it again or more of it, or longer. But then is also included in this, and with the experience of craving arises grasping, but it can be craving for or against, correct? Like I can crave to have this person's company or to avoid this person's company. So it can be either negative or positive craving.
Either positive or negative.
Or negative or positive grasping. Either a grasp to keep them away or a grasp to hold on to them.
Yeah. So there's also there are several types of cravings. It's called the kama upadana. Kama means the sensual desire. That means what you like. Like senses. Whatever feelings you get through the senses, like sensual desire, you grasp it. And then bhava upadana. That means, if you like it, you want it to exist for you. You cling to it. And also if you don't like it, then you deny it, you refuse it. You don't want it to exist for you. Right? So, for example, if you see somebody, if you like that person, you want that person to exist for you. So that means you have already clung to that person. And if you don't like that person, and you don't want to see that person anymore, you don't want that person to exist for you. Right? So that is negative. So you reject it. So that is also a form of clinging. So in another place, when Buddha talked about the cause of suffering, he realized it's the tanha. Tanha, the desire, craving. Now there are 3 types of tanha, the cravings. Kama tanha, desire for sensual pleasure, craving for sensual pleasure. Bhava tanha, desire and craving for the existence. That means, yes, positive, we want more.
Or I just want to live.
Yeah. And the vibhava tanha, I want to live. I don't want it. That's the vibhava tanha. Or you don't want the desire for non-existence. That is what is called. Right? So, is this desire is coming from, and from this desire there comes this clinging. Now you are hanging on to. You're personalizing. Then you are assuming a self. So when this, it is actually an imaginary self in an imaginary world. You are imagining there is such a self, such a thing, entity called I, me, myself. But then, from this grasping, this personalization, there comes the existence, the birth. the birth. Now, along with this birth, from the birth comes what? Let's say, now this is the time and space. This I, the self, occupies in the time and space. So now, we are talking about the time. Now there's the past. In the past, what happened? Let's say the birth is the past. And what is the future of this? What is the future?
Once born, death.
Death. Right? The death. The birth is the past, future is the death. And then, in between birth and death, what is that? What is that life? What is that suffering? What comes from what? In between birth and death, there are two more. Huh? Yeah, but from birth comes what? Now what?
Old age, disease, death.
Old age, aging, right? And then the sickness. And then with all this, does anyone want to get old? Does anyone want to get sick? Does anyone want to die? No. But when these things happen, there comes what? The whole mass of suffering.
Which Buddha also wouldn't exclude joy, great pleasure, all the rest of it, but that has a time frame on it. It goes the other direction as well.
Yeah. So it's like, of course, now the whole
Spectrum of existence.
Yeah. The purpose of this is to explain to the people how the whole mass of suffering comes into being, or how all problems come into being in our life. Now, of course, we are complaining about our life. It's that I'm suffering from something. We are suffering from something. Let's see this problem. We are complaining about the problem because we have already grasped, clung to the problem, assuming this is my problem. This is my pain.